Hello, welcome to Sunken Railroad. This is the Batmobile edition of Sunken Railroad. When I was a kid, my dad and I used to watch Batman, so I thought I would make a tiny Z-scale Batmobile. And I got this from a guy named Tuggus Z-Scale. I'll put a link up to his site. He makes 3D printed Z-scale vehicles, and this guy is probably the smallest Batmobile in existence. Anybody who wants to challenge that, feel free to. But it measures about an inch, which is a little bit more than 2 centimeters. That's very, very detailed. To give you a little history of the Batmobile, this is what I consider to be the iconic Batmobile from the 60s TV show, which was the 20th Century Fox show. Basically in 66, they were looking for a Batmobile for the show, a one-off car, and they hired George Barris to create the Batmobile out of the Ford Futura car that Ford made in the early to mid 60s. It's a really cool looking vehicle. It was built by hand by the Kia Body Works in Italy, and then it was also in a movie. It started with a kiss starring Debbie Reynolds and Glenn Ford, but Barris was trying to get the attention of Hollywood because he wanted to make custom vehicles. Unfortunately, George has passed on, but I do consider this, as many people do, to be the iconic Batmobile. This is a corgi toy of the same car, and then it's got some little details. I'm still working out how I'm going to paint this. I'm going to have to attach it to something so it doesn't fly away. I'm going to use an airbrush, and hopefully it'll come out okay. I've got a couple of these. He actually made me 3 or 4 of them to practice on, so that's what he called an imperfect one. It's just missing the little parachute, and then I've got a couple more here that I can sort of play around with. This one doesn't have the Batman figure, it's got just a cowl, so this could actually be a Ford Futura. So I've got 3 or 4 of these. I'm going to practice with some acrylic paint and maybe some enamel paint, see what looks the best. The other thing I'm challenging myself with is, how do I paint the windshields on these so they look like windshields? They had painted red stripes. The Corgi doesn't have it, but most of the show cars have a red stripe outlining the detail, because I understand the car didn't show up very well on film or on video back then. So I'm thinking about painting a couple of red stripes on this, but I think it would look kind of not awesome. So I'm going to sort of experiment on a couple of them. When I get to something I feel looks good, then I'll paint the actual model. This is the final one right here. So the detail on this car is really, really insane. I'll use this one, but if you look underneath it, it's got engine detail, and you can see the axle. You can see we got a little tiny Batman. There's no Robin, so maybe I'll make one of my figurines into a little tiny Robin. But I know Märklin Z-Scale has nothing to do with Batman, but I thought it'd be fun to just put a Batmobile in the layout as kind of a Easter egg. So what I've decided to do is to attach the Batmobile to a piece of this wooden stick Q-tip I have with hot glue. I can get the bottom off and not damage the vehicle. So I'm just going to put a little dab of hot glue on this and stick it to there. That'll hold it, support it while I paint it. I'm going to use one of the test vehicles, just like that. You know, it's stuck there, and that should be fine. And I could stick it in this piece of foam, and then when I paint it, it won't go anywhere. I'm using a Pache airbrush set to a working pressure of about 20 psi. This is the airbrush I'm going to work with right here. And if you haven't bought an airbrush and developed airbrushing skills, they work really well. I wish I had discovered these years ago, because they really are a game changer. I'm going to move the other vehicles out of the way so I don't, by accident, sort of blow them across my workspace and lose them. And then one of the things you're going to want is you need to thin down the paint. So I'm going to be doing some test spraying, make sure I've got good flow out of the gun. Make sure the gun is super clean when you work on these things. Once they get dirty, it's very, very hard to control the spray paint. It'll affect the quality of what you're doing. This is a dual action where this is the air right here, and then this is the volume of paint. And what it does is it pulls the needle out of the hole in the end and allows you to flow paint. So let me mix up some paint. I think I'm going to start with enamel, see how that looks. Enamel tends to be a little bit more forgiving, especially when it comes to detail. Find some black. I'm going to do it in a, the car was originally in a flat black, but I think I'd like it to be glossy because here's some gloss black right here, because I think it'll stand out a little bit better. This bottle's a little bit, oh, hello. That's part of the challenges of working once in a while. Some of the paints are going to need to be thinned. Let's see how thick this is. It's not too bad. I'd like to see it a little bit thinner. Then I have some Testors paint thinner. You want to use, I buy a couple of bottles. I use one to clean the paintbrushes, which is, you know, the dirty bottle, and then I've got one I use for paint thinning, which is the clean bottle. And then I have some eyedroppers to pull the material out, so I can just add a little bit and thin it out. That's better. So what I'm going to do is add some of this paint. You don't need a lot. It's easy to clean up if you don't overdo it. So there's the whole rig right there with the paint in it. That's it. And I'm going to want to start flowing. I'm going to put the cap back on here so this doesn't dry out anymore than it already has. I want to get the paint flowing. See right there how it's really a nice, not a lot of paint. Don't need a lot on this. Put this here so I don't spray paint my tripod. And you wouldn't want to do just a little bit. You can see it doesn't take much. I'm pretty happy with that. I really am. Still have plenty of paint left. I'm getting excellent flow on the brush. Let's try this guy. I'm pretty happy with that. Of course, I painted my finger black, but that's okay. Okay, I'm really happy with that. I'm going to clean up now, and then I'll come back and start to paint the details. I'm pretty happy with the way it came out. I'll let it dry, clean my airbrush. It's been maybe about 45 minutes. The next thing I want to try to do is paint the windshields. If you look at pictures of the Batmobile, these are plexiglass, and all I can kind of figure out is they need to be kind of a little bit of a lighter shade of black, or like a grayish color. I'm going to experiment on one and see if I can get the look I'm going for here. But now that they're dry, they look really nice. All four of them look really good. So let me try this, see what it looks like. So this is Tester's gunmetal, and it's just a shade off of black. It's not quite the look I'm going for, though. It's kind of a little bit, can't really see it without the magnifying glasses, so it's not really giving me that plexiglass look. I may not be able to get there. I'm going to try something even a little bit lighter. So this color is called Intermediate Blue. Let's try this guy. It's also kind of a dark blue. But this might give me something. You need to be able to see this without, it needs to sort of, in your mind, look like plexiglass or something other than car. So this looks interesting. Yeah, that's visible now. It looks pretty good, actually. I think I would look at that and say, okay, that's plexiglass. Let's try one of the Batmobiles that doesn't have the full canopy. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Whoops. Here we go. And I'll do the actual final Batmobile. All right, looks pretty good. I'm gonna let this dry, and then I will come back and paint some more detail. Okay, I've got my smallest brush that I own. It's basically, I guess I should hold it this way, a 3.0 brush, which is extremely fine. And I'm going to add some of the silver details. Let's see, silver chrome trim, which is the Model Masters series. I'm going to start adding some of the chrome trim to these things. Again, I'm doing 4 of them so I can get used to just painting these. I'm just going to do the rims. You want to wick the brush a little bit so you don't get any over. As I found these small wheels, it's easier to do the rims from 2 different angles. I'm going to come with some flat black and go over the tires anyway. I'm not getting much here, but there we go. But if I get a little bit on the tires, it's not a big deal. It came out pretty good. I'll put some of the other details. I'm actually off screen looking at a picture of it on my computer to sort of guide me as to when I'm painting silver when I'm not. There's a chrome police lamp on this thing, as well as 3 tiny little, I guess, jet tubes that fire rockets or something. I have to hit that. This has got some lint on it. I'm going to have to get off before I paint it. There's also a jet rocket in the back I have to hit. It'll become red later. It's pretty good. Pretty happy with that. Just gonna touch up the areas I messed up. Okay, I'm pretty happy with the way this came out. Make the grill flat black here. It's amazing how much detail they got into this 3D printing, honestly. I never envisioned that I'd be able to do this. Now I'll add some of the final detail, which are the amber lenses. And let's add the taillight, some of the red detail. There's also two little bat insignias on the doors. I can't obviously paint those, so I'm just going to put a couple red dots of paint on the doors. I would say that is a Z-scale Batmobile. There's also some red dots on the rims. Alright, I'm really happy with the way this came out. So now I have a little Batmobile for my layout. Thank you for watching.